Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're real close to 7 p.m., so at this time I'll call the meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. And as always, we'll begin our meeting with the invocation led by Commissioner Stoney Rushing.
Thank you. Join me if you'd like. Lord, we thank you for bringing us all here safely tonight and pray that you would be with us as we conduct the business of the people of Union County. We thank you for all the first responders, emergency personnel, and citizens who came together in the last week after the devastating weather that we had. We pray that you'd be with our nation as we go through the turmoil that we're going through now as a people. Pray that you would clear our minds that we can make great decisions and move this country forward. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We have a special treat this evening. We have with us this evening Mark Christopher Smith, an Eagle Scout, who is going to help us with our Pledge of Allegiance, and some of our guys from the Young Marines. Are they with us this evening? We have both you guys come up and ladies, guys, anybody else? And lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys come up to the podium right here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we'll have those young folks back here to recognize them in a few minutes. As is our tradition, we take an opportunity to recognize those county employees who have some tenured service with us here in the county. So we'll do that at this time. Our 5-year recipients with Growth Management, Brian Matthews, Seth Pahanich with Community Services, Cheryl Wright with Administrative Services, Christopher Medlin with Public Works, Wayne Miller with Register of Deeds, Christopher Castrogiovanni with the Sheriff's Office, Catherine Garcia with the Sheriff's Office, and Andrew Hargett with the Sheriff's Office. With 10 years service, we have Laura Baker, Human Services, Donna Love, also with Human Services, David Buckingham with the Sheriff's Office, and Joe Vitris Rubin with Human Services. With 15 years, Kimberly Chambers with Community Services. And we have some 20-year folks, Gina Long with Human Services, Adelma Zmersky with Human Services, Denise Burns with the Sheriff's Office, Timothy Turner with the Sheriff's Office, and Deborah Bolton with Human Services. We also have 3 retirements, September retirements, Penelope Henson with Tax Administration, 28 years. Clifford Rhodes with Community Services, 17 years, and Deborah Bolton with Human Services with 20 years. So congratulations to those employees for their service. We're much appreciated. Our next item is, yes, give them a hand, thank you. Our next item is the introduction of our Deputy Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Misty, do you mind coming to the podium? Thank you. Misty Hughes joined us at Union County as the Deputy Clerk to the Board of County Commissioners on Tuesday, September the 4th. I know some of you have had an opportunity to meet Misty. Others of you may not have had that opportunity. Prior to joining Union County, she was employed with Stanley County Community College for approximately 15 years as the Director of Outreach, and she and her family reside in Stanfield. And we welcome you to Union County and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to the board, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to work with Ms. West.
Awesome. Also, Tropical Storm Florence.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, staff put together just a very short video to try and attempt to say thank you to all of the individuals who worked prior to the storm, during the storm, as well as after the storm. We solicited the services of code enforcement as well as tax to help us with the damage assessment after the storm. So we put together a video to try and recognize Union County employees who came together during that difficult time. Hopefully we've done it some justice, but I know there will be some faces we have missed. But with that, if we could just take a couple minutes of your time.
Sure, great.
And that's just a small token of our appreciation for those employees who left their families, left their homes, and many of them worked day and night, spending many hours here in this building and other building, and we just wanted to express our appreciation to them.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Madam Manager, may I also note there was a UCPS janitorial
Yes.
that came from Parkwood. He came prepared to stay. Mr. Odell, I think's his name, Kathy, is that correct? And very appreciative of all the staff that was working diligently in that shelter. This gentleman took a workload off of them, and so he needs to be commended as well.
Yes, you're right. Thank you.
Once a year, we get the opportunity for our young Marines to come and tell us about Red Ribbon Week. And so we'll do that at this time. Folks, come on up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Robert Kellum. I'm the XO of the Young Marines in Mecklenburg County.
Hello, I'm Catherine Parnell, Young Marine Private of Mecklenburg and Marine County.
Just go ahead and tell them about Young Red Ribbon Week. So Red Ribbon Week is a dedication to DE agent Enrique Camarena. He was murdered in 1985 down in Mexico trying to get rid of the cartels. 3 years later, they started Red Ribbon Week. So now this red ribbon that we wear once a month, this month of the every year is a dedication to the memory of that DEA agent and to help a drug-free and alcohol-free youth. So, got anything to add to that?
Just that it became an official part of our uniform, and that it's been something that all of us have honored and respected.
Any questions about Red Ribbon Week? I do have a pocket full of red ribbons, so if anybody would like one, I'd love to pass them out to help you guys show your support for the cause. Great, absolutely.
Pass them all out.
All right.
We always appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you, sir.
And while you're passing out those red ribbons, I'm going to read the proclamation.
Thank you.
Red Ribbon Week. Whereas communities across America have been plagued by the numerous problems associated with illicit drug use and those that traffic in them. And whereas there is hope in winning the war on drugs, and that hope lies in education and drug demand reduction, coupled with the hard work and determination of organizations such as the Mecklenburg County Young Marines or the Marine Corps League to foster a healthy drug-free lifestyle. And whereas governments and community leaders know that citizen support is one of the most effective tools in the effort to reduce the use of illicit drugs in our communities. And whereas the red ribbon has been chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Enrique Quique Camarena, a Drug Enforcement Administration special agent who was murdered in the line of duty and represents the belief that one person can make a difference. And whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention and reduction efforts, and whereas October 23rd through 31st has been designated National Red Ribbon Week, which encourages Americans to wear a red ribbon to show their support for a drug-free environment. Now therefore, the Union County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims October 23rd through the 31st as Red Ribbon Week in Union County, North Carolina, and urges all citizens to join in this special observance, adopted this first day of October 2018. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
And all, thank you for your time.
We also are fortunate to have with us tonight Mark Christopher Smith. Mark is a junior at Marvin Ridge High School and a member of Troop 8 from St. Matthew's Catholic Church in Charlotte. He's just received his Eagle Award, or is soon to. His Eagle Scout project was for the Humane Society of Union County, which included building a custom L-shaped bench with planters at the entrance, leveling and spreading gravel in the waiting area where the bench was installed, installing a chain link fenced area to separate sick animals from those recovering from surgery, and applying a non-skid coating to the entrance ramp. So at this time, we'd like to recognize Mark, and we have a letter from the Board of Commissioners. So come on up, we'll present that to you. Let's give him a big hand. Congratulations on reaching that threshold, and I know the rest of the board gets tired of me saying this, but I told it to many Eagle Scout. You think you've reached the top, but you're just beginning. It's time to put all that leadership to work now, so congratulations very much. There was one other item, and Jeff, I don't know if we need to suspend the rules on this or not, relative to employee recognition. I believe it's the Madam Manager's birthday, so let's all sing happy birthday.
Oh, my stars.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cindy. Happy birthday to you. Either one works. Now you've got that on tape. So.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm a little, I'm speechless, but thank you.
We only gave you one candle, so you.
Thanks, so I can keep the rest of it to myself, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And we have some other staff members and department heads in the group. Don't get any ideas. This is not a precedent-setting event or anything like that. So get your own cake, okay? Our next item is public hearing CZ 2018-005, Antioch Church Road.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, this is a request to amend the zoning map of Union County by rezoning a parcel of land from R40 residential 40,000 square foot minimum lot size to R10CZ residential 10,000 square foot minimum lot size conditional district. And Brian Matthews has some information he would like to impart to the board prior to you taking public comment.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. What you have here tonight is a conditional rezoning request.
I apologize for
No,
getting started.
that's
I don't
all
have me and Commissioner Helms don't have a screen up for whatever reason. Is there something we need to push here?
It was on earlier. I
Yeah, it was on
Cut
earlier.
it off in the back. Did you do that to us, Brian?
I did.
What'd you do, Sonny?
Chris Mumpower, who just was out here momentarily, who is our Customer Service Employee of the Year.
Absolutely.
So, and Chris hates recognition.
You just put him on the spot.
Yes, I
Sure.
did.
Sorry, y'all. Technology isn't perfect.
Yeah.
It's called power on reset.
We up? All right, very good.
That's why he's a Customer Service Employee of the Year.
So what you have here tonight is a conditional rezoning request, and the board is a little bit familiar with these. You've had a few. The property owner actually is requesting to rezone the property from R40, which is residential 40,000 square foot lots. That's approximately 1 acre. Property is located off of Antioch Church Road, in between Beulah Church Road and Highway 84. This area is bounded by Weddington's jurisdiction here. The county's unincorporated several parcels in this area. The request is to rezone the property to CZR10. Now, that is essentially 10,000 square foot lots. So the setbacks that would apply to that is 30 foot in the front, 10 foot on the sides, 30 foot in the rear. R40 setbacks are 40 foot in the front, 15 on the side, 40 foot in the rear. So you see there is a difference. The applicant has proposed several conditions that would apply to this particular project if approved. One of those conditions is that the property would have no more than 47 units of the total. Also, that they would actually meet our stormwater requirements for cluster developments. Those are our only stormwater requirements in the ordinance. They would meet our, they would have a minimum square footage for their homes of 3,000 square feet. They would also meet our tree removal and replacement buffer for the R40 district instead of for the R10 district. It provides some additional buffer area. They would also have some specific materials that they've identified, and they would indicate there would be vinyl siding would not be allowed as a primary construction material. The property is approximately 25.52 acres. As I indicated before, they're asking for 47 units. That's approximately 1.84 units per acre. There's a significant amount of floodplain on this property, so a good bit of the property would be undevelopable as it is. So again, they're actually putting their lots on either side of the floodplain. The developer is here. They do want to give a presentation, but I just want to give you an introduction here. Here's a site plan of the project. What you'll see is there is one entrance in, a couple of cul-de-sacs. It is split by this floodplain area. They are showing some detention on there, but this is not engineered, and we don't require engineering for a rezoning. It's merely conceptual, so you can see what they're intending on doing. Again, as I said, their minimum lot sizes are 10,000 square feet. Around the area is predominantly R40 type zoning, so the lots that are predominantly in this area are 40,000 square feet or greater. Our current land use plan for this area shows this as being single-family residential. This is the area here. This dot here is actually a community center, which is near the intersection of 84 and Waxhaw Indian Trail Road. There's a lot of commercial in that area. That's the reason for that dot. This area here, as far as the county's land use plan, calls for single-family residential. When that was developed, it was primarily very little infrastructure in the area, so that necessitated the larger lot sizes in that area. As I indicated before, there is a great deal of a floodplain along the property. It actually splits the property in half. This is all floodplain in this area, so those are some environmental features of the property. The project itself is not consistent with the land uses that are out there, predominantly the R40 type zoning. However, the developer and the applicant have indicated that because they intend on having infrastructure provided for this site, there is a county CIP project for sewer in this area within approximately 2 years. And the developers indicated that they will extend water to this property, that because of public utilities, that this site would then be developable, in their opinion, on a bit higher density is what they're asking for. As I indicated, the developer is here. They do have a presentation, and I'm sure there are quite a number of people here who would like to give you their input on this project. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Brian? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This time, we'll open the public hearing, and we'll see your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Simpson and County Commissioners, for giving us this opportunity to speak to you tonight. We had an 11th hour emergency, so a lot of things are going to be a little different because one of our partners that was going to speak had an emergency. So we're going to do the best that we can with what we're doing. First of all, I want to let you know that we've tried to work with every entity possible. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, Brian Rosen Reynolds. We've been working with him and trying to follow all their directions on building a bridge that we're doing there. Second thing is, one of the biggest complaints I had, for some reason, the neighbors put me on a call list for about a month ago, and I got this picture of a hill splitter, they said, and then for the next month, I got all of their everything they were doing between each other. I don't even know, I got my phone number on that list, but I took that picture of what they considered a hill splitter, and if you look in the package I gave you, I sent that picture to Jason May, who's the head biologist for North Carolina and South Carolina with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. he described that as being a mussel. He also described it in the letter of it would be highly unusual for a hill splitter to be in that creek because of the habitat they are used to. And he said, I know Union County extremely well, and I know that creek well, and I'd be absolutely shocked if there was a hill splitter there. The next letter you see is from the North Carolina Natural and Cultural Resources, Judy Ratliff. They did within a mile survey of everything around the project, and they've never had any issue with anything that's had an issue of being extinct, including plants and hill splitters and mussels. So I hope that will address the, quote, mussel issue and the hill splitter issue. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the water. You have a package there, and I actually moved to Weddington in 1980, so I've been in that area a long time. My brother literally lives on the creek there, but in this package, if you'll look, the first picture we have is of the road not far from there on Newtown Road where it tore up the pavement. I mean, really did a lot of damage. The next picture is of the ball field, which I was one of 4 people that started it. Literally, I remember we named it Wesley Chapel Weddington because we had one guy from Wesley Chapel that worked harder than all of us, and he was adamant that we put Wesley Chapel in it instead of just Weddington, so that's why it's called Wesley Chapel Weddington. But if you see here, we bought around 25 or 30 acres from Bill Nolan that was floodplain. Literally, this picture was taken a week ago. The dirt they're still putting there, and they've raised it above the floodplain level. They have an issue there that they know that they're trying to address. But with that issue and the next issue, which is, if you look, it's the pine needle forest that was planted literally right at the creek. Right up the stream on Beulah Church Road, the bridge never even capped. Water didn't even come up to the road. Here, what you have, and I built a home behind the ball field over 25 years ago. I know that area like the back of my hand. What you have is a pine needle forest right at the creek, okay? Reason I'm telling you that is if you look across the street where my brother lives, his fence was taken out. But if you look at every post, it's got about 3 foot high of pine needles. Next day he called me and he said, I cannot believe somebody didn't do something about those pine needles. This is my brother that lives on the creek. He said, they've never come over to my fence like that. And usually what they do is they clog the culvert, and that's where the flooding begins. Remember, right back up, no problem whatsoever. The next picture that you have is the next morning, bright and early. The next morning, water's gone, creek's flowing fine. I wanted to address that because that kind of looks at the water issues that are in that area. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the schools. I'm sure that Weddington is at or near capacity there. I'm sure that there's going to be some people here addressing that. But in the 40 years almost since my family has moved to Weddington, Union County, I've seen a lot of changes. I was told not long ago by someone that understands what's going on that one of the biggest issues in Weddington, which is good, is most of the people don't want to move that are empty nesters. So there's not as many people moving in. What I wanted to relate, there was one thing. I just hung up from Eddie Goodall, who does a lot, by the way, signed one of our petitions, does a lot with charter schools. Charter schools are taking a lot of students out of our public schools. And they just purchased this year the old Southern Evangelical Seminary in the Weddington School District, probably by Crow 2 miles away. This is their first year. They have over 500 students. They're getting ready to add 40,000 square feet to their charter school in Weddington School District, and expect, this is coming from Eddie Goodall, charter school, expect over 900 in the near future. And they project most of those are going to come from the Weddington school districts. And that's Southern Evangelical. That kind of addresses the school issue. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is the sewer. The sewer line that is going up that creek has been planned for 20, 25 years, way before most of the people in here lived here. And at that time, that was all the county, okay? With sewer comes growth. If you look at my map here, to give you an example, a golf shot up the street, actually, I'm gonna start with this, 2,000 feet up the creek, they're putting in a pump station right now. A pump station. Bonterra's building homes there right now. 2,000 feet up the creek. Nobody worried about the roads, schools, the flooding then, all in 18 months. Up on the corner, Bonterra built 44 lots. In that 44 lots, on Antioch Church Road, nobody complained. Roads, school, water. They have 11 lots under a half acre. They have 8 that are a half acre, 19.6 of an acre. They only have 5 that are 0.7, 8, and 9. Not one lot's an acre. Right there. Nobody complained. On Antioch Church Road. Yeah. What we did is we had 3 meetings. First meeting we had at the church. Our neighbors had 14 people there. Second meeting, we went into a neighbor's home. They had 10 or 12 people. The third meeting was the planning board meeting. They had 18 counting children. At that point, what happened is, which is very smart of them, and I don't blame whatsoever, nobody wants anything in their backyard. At that point, they went on the internet and decided they were going to make this a Weddington issue. And so they got signatures from miles and miles and miles away. They got the Weddington City Council involved. I want to show you a letter on their webpage that I think is very interesting. It says, Mr. Owens, I support your position, but all the new houses going up on Beulah Church and Weddington Road, as well as Antioch Church Road, are all much less than 1 house per acre. Giant boxes on postage stamp lots. We have already lost our rural character. How did all these other new neighborhoods get approved? Maybe they weren't in the backyard of 1 or 2 people, but my point is, this was on their webpage that somebody sent. Other thing on their page states 2 things I think is interesting. One says, this does not meet the character of the area per the 2018 Weddington survey. This is not a Weddington. This is not a Weddington, and neither is that. And I can understand about the Weddington issue, but I can tell you that area hasn't even been in Weddington that long. It might be 8, 10, 12, but I remember when the city of Weddington annexed them, and most of those houses were already there, so they were there before they were even annexed into Weddington. So, last thing I'd like to talk about is signatures. What we did is we went out and we have eight families, 8 different people that live within a block or 2 of that project on Antioch Church Road that have signed letters saying we do not oppose it. We're fine with it. 8. We have over 50 that live in the area. We didn't go on the internet. We didn't make it a Weddington Union County issue. We went door to door in the area. We have over 50 that have signed it saying they do not have an issue with it. A good example is I was talking to Red about a week ago. I told him, I said, Red, they got 500 signatures. Red looked at me and he said, Mark, Red's been here how long? 70 years, 60 years. He said, I got 750 phone numbers in my phone. 500 are Union County. How fast do you want me to get their names and signatures? I laughed. I said, Rev, we don't need to do that. That's fine. But in doing that, I was letting you know that we'd be more than happy to look into getting more signatures in the county. But what we did is we carved out an area near the property. If you go on their webpage, they got people miles and miles and miles. In other words, again, they put this as a major Weddington issue after they had 14, 12, and 18 people at their 3 meetings. And then at that point, they did an excellent job of getting the people out. My point is, where were they here and here? Absolutely same thing. County property, water, schools, roads. Just don't think it was in a couple of people's backyard. Now I'd like to turn it over to Kevin Presley to go over a couple of technical things, unless y'all have a question for me.
Yeah, Mark, has a traffic study been done?
Have we done the traffic study yet?
That kind of, we have talked to
Yeah.
DOT about it.
Yeah, we're in discussions with Scott Coles from the DOT. He has asked us to do a turning lane and a few things, which he wrote a letter to the county telling them that we've agreed to everything that they want us to do, but we are not at that process yet. Just kind of like working with the Army Corps. Truthfully, there's nothing the Army Corps can do till we get in there, and then we're just going to follow their lead, do whatever they want. And one other thing I'd like to say is this. I've watched, from the first person that lived on High Meadow Lane, I've watched ball fields with lights, which I love because I coach and was out there. I watched a new development right behind my house, my ex-wife's house, now she lives there. And she has a holding pond right behind her house. She didn't like any of that, but that's part of growth. Tell you a quick story. 1980, my wife and I drove from Mint Hill to Pineville, and we said we don't want to live in Mecklenburg County when we have children. So I knocked on the door on Gatewood Avenue, 400 Gatewood Avenue. I knocked on the door, it said for sale by owner. I said, ma'am, we like your house. Can we look at it? She said, certainly. Walked through it. We loved it. I looked there, I said, ma'am, I only have $20,000 and the interest rates are 18, 19%. I need to talk to a few people. She said, son, look me in the eye. She said, I'm from Connecticut. I hate this place. My husband left me. You give me $20,000 and I'll finance it for 5%. So that's how I ended up in Weddington in 1980. But I'm going to turn this over to Kevin Presley unless there's another question for me.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you're saying you're going to build a bridge over the wetlands?
Yes, ma'am.
But you haven't, you've only worked with the Army Corps of Engineers. You have not
Ma'am, I talked to
contacted,
the Army Corps.
have you contacted Diener?
I've talked to Diener, I've talked to Army Corps. But my point is just like the road. My point is, once Army Corps comes in, they're going to instruct us exactly what we have to do. In fact, again,
I didn't kind of ask my
Brian
question.
Rosen Reynolds is who we've talked to at the Army Corps. And he even said, this is early, so, let's talk about it once you get further down the road. But that's exactly what we want to do.
Well, I didn't get to ask my question, but.
I'm sorry?
Are you leveling off that property?
We're going to have our engineers talk about that if you want. And they can tell you everything about that. I'm not an engineer, but we're going to do what the Army Corps asked us to do.
And Diener?
Okay, well, like I said, we actually, have we talked? Yeah, he can address
All right.
those issues. Any other questions?
Mr. Helms?
Yes, you talked about the charter schools.
Sir?
You've talked about the charter schools.
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to UCPS?
No, I have
Because,
not.
well, I think that's important because I have. And I know there's a bubble in the Weddington feeder schools. And from that standpoint, UCPS is making accomplishments where people are coming back from charter schools
Oh, I
as
agree.
well.
Listen, I
So-
moved here for the school.
Oh, I understand. And so, it's important that that you get their input as well, because I'm being told that in 2 to 3 years, that bubble's gonna move up to high schools and already, crowded high school, and so this would further complicate things. So, I'd ask that you go through UCPS and find out information.
Absolutely. What we did is we talked to a couple people and tried to find out exactly what it was at this point, because, they just realigned it this past year. But the one thing I kept hearing from people in the region was charter schools, not just here, they're killed in Mecklenburg County. But again, they're getting ready to add on 40,000 square feet and expect over 900 students at Union Day, which is the old Southern Evangelical. And their projections are most of them are going to come from here. But I'm sure this county is run so well. The school system, in my opinion, is the best in the state. That's the reason we're sitting here. And so, I understand both, but I was letting you know, with the charter schools, there's several here that are thriving, and I think you'll see Union doing the exact same thing, is in my opinion, and that's going to draw from that bubble, hopefully.
Well, like you point out,
Thank you.
there are other developments going in around the county, around Weddington, so
Well,
we need to understand what the total effect would be.
But, it's like here, that just kind of baffles me, literally. One's 2,000 feet away and the other one's 2 golf shots away. And there was no opposition. And most of the lots are 0.6 or less. And there was no opposition till it became in somebody's backyard that was smart and really started a hornet's nest, and that's what we have. My point is, if I lived here and the traffic bothered me and the schools bothered me and the water, I would have done something about this and this. But they just came out, boom, in the last 30 days. They came out after they realized at the planning board meeting that something might happen, and they were brilliant in what they did. They hit that internet blowing up and did a good job.
Okay, let's stay on task. Any other questions for Mark?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. This is Kevin Presley.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for listening to us tonight, and Commissioners, and Ms. West, always a pleasure to see you, and Ms. Koto, happy birthday. I will address, Ms. Harrison, I will address the issue. The answer is no. We're going to be doing with Diener and Army Corps of Engineers. We've got a 100-foot buffer that's on both sides of that creek, and what we're going to do is an open bottom culvert or something of that nature. We won't be disturbing anything on the outside of it. We'll either do there's a couple of options we could do, but again, it's up to what they decide to do and the plans, and that'll all be through Stormwater, Army Corps of Engineers, and Diener to decide what they want us to do. We can do a suspended type footings.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to interrupt train of thought. What is an open bottom culvert?
Open bottom culvert is like in Hemby Bridge, it's got this like an L shape, it's got the tops like it, but it's open in the bottom.
Stream bed is the.
String bed is not touched. Or you can suspend from one side to another, think for maybe a half a pipe cut in half. That could be done with a head wall built on each side of it, or you can do a footing foundation to bring it in and just set it and just suspend the whole thing. Depends on how wide of area that you're planning on crossing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So anyway, I'm hoping that's, you've got some more questions about that.
Well, it still concerns me because you are going to have water going into there.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not so much that development, it's what's going to go on downstream.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have seen that over and over again. It is downstream that we end up having issues.
Okay.
And we've already had that road flood. So I really think that there should be more work done on what is the impact going to be when you're leveling off a road, you're leveling off land, you're putting all the impervious.
Right. And we have that. We have our engineer here tonight. We'll be putting in ponds that'll catch everything that falls within that subdivision. It'll be called in some BMPs, and that water is slowly released so you don't have that big burst of flood. And all that'll have to be approved, just like every subdivision that comes through here, through your staff and through your stormwater, and all that'll have to be approved. And it'll be y'all's staff that puts the stamp on it and says, we're not doing anything or this meets the approval that doesn't do any harm of anything downstream. So it'll be up to your staff to tell us what we need to do at that point. But I think that's just a common practice.
Okay.
Okay? All right, you may continue on, or any more questions at that point? I just want to say that I understand completely, we had a planning board meeting that was, we had just kind of a neutral decision. I think you guys may have heard about that, it was, I guess, 2-2 or whatever, so it was, no decision was made on that. And I just want to tell you that I understand completely why these folks are out here tonight. I mean, just to be honest with my own personal experience, I live on a farm that is registered with North Carolina as a century farm. It's been, we went back just to get the designation, went back 140 years. And so then, you'd think with this Monroe bypass and all this coming through, I was dead against it. I was wanting to stop it. I didn't want it to run through my farm, our farm, family farm. And I didn't want it to go through Hemby Bridge and bust into town wide open. And but then I understood there's nothing I can do about it, so what is the best thing I can do with it? And so I started talking with the Turnpike Authority. I said, can we do this and can we do this? And they worked with us, and now we have a great project. Now, I drive under a bypass every morning when I come out of my driveway, but it's getting better and better, and I do know that change is coming. And I don't think that your staff would probably, I knew there's going to be some pump stations taken off, and that's what, really makes the sewer line feasible. But I do think that, I don't know if you'd be running sewer to say, we're going to get a house here per acre, a house here per acre, a house here per acre. You'll probably be looking at the studies, and as Mark talked about, of what's going to happen in the future. Mr. Osborne has allowed and signed off and to run sewer on his property. I feel like that he needs to be fair with what he can do with his property. Now, we do have an irregular piece, and I was alluding to a while ago when we was talking about the bridge. We're keeping 100 foot on each side of it. That's allowing for the creek not to be disturbed. That's allowing for wildlife to be able to go to and fro and be able to use that. So we do have an irregular piece of property, and now with the sewer easement on there, it's just the footprint's getting smaller and smaller what he could do with. And so, we just kind of feel like that what we've done is we have taken a project and are putting, although there are smaller lots, and I just want to make one thing clear. The reason, I don't want you guys to think that we're doing 10,000 square foot lots. The designation of the R10 was because of the setbacks only. Our lots are not even 20,000 square foot lots. They're greater than 20,000. I don't think we have anything that's under 20,000 or under. I don't think. But anyway, but if it is, it's very little. So we are over the 20,000 square foot, if I'm not mistaken, on each and every lot. You have a classification in Union County right now, and I spoke with your planning department, and I had that percentage wrote down, that you have R40 and then you have R20. And there's a lot of parcels that are zoned in Union County that are R20. And the reason being because they have the ability to be able with sewer and things like that. The reason that this is not in harmony with this area, because I think the question was raised about, has there ever been another land use plan done with this area? And the answer was no. It's always been like this since the time that we have been in the zoning business with Union County. And there's no reason to do it because you can't put a septic tank pretty much on an R20 lot. So it's all been septic tanks and wells. And so I want to let you know that there's several issues going on with this. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to use the best possible practices with this. We've got a $600,000 project, home that's going on these lots, average of $600,000. And most of the houses that are around this, there's some more bigger, there's some more bigger tracts up above and things like that, but most of the homes won't appraise for $600,000 in this area. So we feel like that we're doing no harm and are doing nothing but increasing the values of building a $600,000 house on a small lot. So we feel like we're doing that. We're bringing, at our cost, over a 3,000 foot water line that we're going to pay for and put in and install. We've been dealing with Scott Cole on this already, and you had talked about the traffic studies on this thing. We're not required to have a traffic study. He said what he's told us in our preliminary is we'll need to put a turning lane in. So we're already prepared for that. So the traffic study, because it's only a small amount of lots, is not required. Now, unless he comes back and says a little bit later on change it, but we already know we've got to put the turning lane in here. So anyway, but we felt like that we're doing the best we can with this property, not disturbing and putting these bigger houses in there. So it's going to attract a great clientele, and so we feel like we're doing the best we can with it, and it's doing the best with Mr. Osborne. We're bringing a water line that's not only going to benefit us, it's going to benefit for the folks of Union County on that road that needs water. That maybe I think there's some property owners that's got problems with their wells, so they'll be able to tap onto this water, but we're paying for it to bring it on there. And not only that is the tax base. I think we figured out that it's going to bring in, was it $200,000, I believe it was, in taxes to Union County, not including property taxes and vehicle taxes. So we're trying to do the best with what we can with that property. Again, we talked about with the recent flooding and the hurricane, we understand that that's a big issue that we've talked about. I just want to reiterate to you that we are catching every bit of the runoff because of the roads, because of the rooftops, because of the sidewalks. We will be catching and maintaining those things within our ponds that we have on there now, and we'll be detaining that water to be slowly released out. And our engineer's here tonight. He can answer any kind of questions that you'd like. I just want to say that, we looked at this property and we began discussions with Mr. Osborne. We have a plan B, and I'm just going to, I'll just tell you what that plan B is. We had looked at developing only the left side of this property, not doing anything with the right side. That would save a lot of money by not having to put that bridge in. We have a contract, I have it right here, with American Homes for Rent, and they build a product between $200,000 to $300,000. They want this. We've got a contract. All we'd have to do is sign it. This is our plan B. There would be, everything would be on the one side. Your ordinance allows a R40 clustering, and that allows you to build, to cluster, not change the density. The density is already set with the whole piece of property, but it allows us to build on 20,000 square foot lots. If you really look at this property, taking 20,000 square foot is not exactly a half an acre, it's 20,000 square foot, so you got a little bit left over. So every 6 acres, you probably gain another lot. So we have that as a B, but we don't think that the folks, here's my contract, we don't think that the folks around this area would want rental houses. And there's nothing there's nothing in the ordinance that hinders this. These folks would buy it today. So the savings that we would have, not going across the road, not going across the infrastructure, yeah, our numbers would be down. And the reason our numbers is up right now that we're requesting this amount of lot is because we are doing so much and giving so much with the water line, with the culvert, and the infrastructure we're putting in. So our plan B is, and we're hoping that y'all will see what we're trying to do, that we're trying to absolutely do the best we can and build a great product on this property. But our plan B is, by right, is a project that would be between, as I said, average of probably $250,000 houses. It's brand new. It's done by you can check them out. They're the biggest rental folks in America. They have 55,000 rental houses, and they're ready to buy it right now. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to put rental houses out there. We want to be good neighbors, but we're going to do something. We're going to develop the property. And so that's why we're coming to you guys, and we're really hoping that you can see that we're trying to do the best. We don't mind spending the money, and we want to do the best we can for that area out there and for Mr. Osborne. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you, sir.
If y'all would like to see any more pictures of the homes or anything, let us know.
Mark, was that all you guys had?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, available any questions you
Okay, thank you. All right, we have some folks signed up to speak. Mike Smith.
I had to write this one down. Bear with me, folks, sorry. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Councilman Michael Smith with the Town of Weddington, and I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Weddington Town Council regarding the proposed rezoning of parcel of land consisting of 25 acres, which is located on Antioch Church Road, situated just outside the Weddington town limits in unincorporated Union County. The proposed development the proposed development is for a property consisting of 47 homes to be built on a floodplain. The council's concerns are about the stormwater runoff and that would occur as a result of 47 homes built in such a condensed manner on a floodplain, and the devastating impact that it would have on the Weddington homes that abut this property. A fork of the 12-mile creek road runs through, a fork of the 12-mile creek runs through the property, and under heavy rain conditions, which occurs frequently, the creek floods, causing additional flooding along the Antioch Church Road and Route 84 corridors. The section of this creek that passes under Antioch Church Road is prone to flooding, causing the road to close. The water continues along the creek bed, flooding backyards of homes that are several hundred yards downstream of the intended building site. As the water travels downstream, it carries with it a strong current. Commissioners, the council fully understands and respects the position and challenges you face when making these types of decisions. Although on a smaller scale, we too face the same challenges and know that they are not easy at times. We also respect the rights of the property owner to build on their property and are not suggesting otherwise. The council is asking the commissioners to take into consideration the impact and damage that would occur to existing nearby homes by allowing such high-density development to be built on a floodplain. Although stormwater management measures will be put in place on this project, we have already seen in Weddington that they are ineffective during the building phase, and damage can and most likely will occur to existing homes before those protective measures can become fully operational. Even with these protective measures in place, it is doubtful they would effectively serve their intended purpose on a floodplain. For most people, their property and home is their greatest asset and the main foundation for one's family life. The Weddington Town Council is asking you to protect existing homes in the county by not approving the R10 rezoning and keep the zoning at original R40. Thank you.
Jonathan Thomas.
I don't know where the PowerPoint's located. Let me. Here we go. All right. Well, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me this evening. I'm here to talk about money, mainly the county's money and the fiduciary responsibility we have to safeguarding that. First, allow me to get off topic real quick. There's a comment that Vice Chairman Helms made regarding charter schools that I just couldn't let get past. My eldest son, Robert, went to kindergarten at Union Prep. That is a charter school. We were dissatisfied. We are one of the examples he was mentioning. We're now parents of 2 students in Wesley Chapel Elementary. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that real quick. All right, so what will this proposed development generate? Positive tax revenue. I know they spoke to that briefly, so let's investigate a little further. Dollars generated. Now, assessed value is not sale price. It's not even appraisal price. It's what the county assesses. For example, the property right now, I believe somewhere around $658,000 assessed. Obviously, the contract price is considerably more, but I doubt they would disclose that. Based on this, you can see the assessed value of some comps that I've got from similar sized houses in the 3,000, 3,500 square foot range around the county. This is unincorporated Union County as well as in the area on similar sized parcels. That's the range. So anywhere from 1,900 to 3,000 per house. If you multiply it by 47,000, that's $90,000, $144,000 total. That's a lot of money. Sounds like a pretty good deal. Now, we're not talking cars or anything else. We're just talking the values of the houses as assessed by the county. All my sources are listed on the bottom, so feel free to double check me. School dollars generated, of those 0.445, that's 44.5 cents of every $100 of assessed value assessed by the county goes to schools. Of that, if you have if the valuations come in around $250,000, which is probably low but not out of the question, that's $40,000 to school revenue. If it goes all the way up to $400,000 assessed value, then you're talking about $64,000 towards schools. Again, that's a great number. However, the average cost per student as of 2017 is $9,172. That's per student per year on public K-12 education. As of 2016 year, Union County is responsible for 24.6% of that number, which equates to about $2,256.31 per student per year. When we analyze that a little further, if you have one school enrolled, or one child enrolled in public schools in each of these houses, that is a cost to the county of $106,000 a year. That's just one student per house. Not very unreasonable. Now, we go all the way up to 2.5 children, probably not very reasonable, but you see where the costs have the potential to explode. So our best case scenario would be if the assessed values are coming in somewhere around $400,000. And again, the assessed values are based on comparable examples throughout the county that, in my best estimation, are comparable. The source is the GIS and the public tax record. So again, feel free to double check my work there. But if that's the case and you have one child per household, then you're talking about $41,937.82 a year is the deficit, not what we're paying for the schools. This is after the taxes come in, taxes go out, we're left in the hole. You can buy a pretty nice car for that. Worst case scenario, if the values come in low and you have a lot of children that are going to the public schools, obviously that could balloon. Not very likely, neither is the best case scenario. Likely scenario based on, again, examples, you're talking about $300,000 per home assessed value. Again, this is not what your sale price is. It's not what they're marketing. It's just the assessed value that the county determines. And about 1.5 children per household, the county will lose around $111,000 per year. That's not a very good deal for us. So the final items I urge you to consider. Average home in this area, as well as unincorporated Union County. This is not Weddington, this is not Wesley Chapel. Similar square footage, 3,500. Average is $250,000 to $300,000 in assessed value. That is average versus the Union County tax records in the GIS. Houses in this proposed subdivision will likely have 4 to 5 bedrooms. Those people in the area move here for schools. They're not going to charter schools. They're not going to private schools. They want the public schools. That's why they're moving here. And if you're buying a house that's 3,500 square foot, that's 4 or 5 bedrooms, odds are you have some school-aged children there, so it is very likely that you will see this impact. There are no comparable properties in this area with lots this small that have higher assessed values. Feel free to check that as well. I don't know how these homes are going to be the exception. It's not done anywhere else in the county. I don't even know if they could prove that these will generate the amount of revenue they think they will, but that's not my problem. The current assessed value of the property is $686,200. Source of that is the public tax record. Generates approximately $3,053.59 for public school tax revenue. Could accommodate 1.35 students without being a tax burden to the county. Final point there is the county is a better financial position as it sits than as if the property were developed as proposed. Now, I'm not saying I'm anti-development. I'm saying this is what's considered a high-density use according to the Union County UDO. I'm just looking for responsible development and something that's characteristic to the community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Jay Horner.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come before you tonight. I'm going to do a quick overview of what you're going to hear in a few minutes from the people who know how to work a computer. Okay. All right, that's good. I just wanted to point out a few things that concerned us at the planning board and before that and even now. We have concerns with the type and density of the development being proposed in the requested zoning change. The main concerns we have in regards to that in a quick overview is R10 zoning is not in keeping with the character of the surrounding neighborhoods. Most lots are 1 acre or more and the area is now R40, of course. This project is not in compliance with Union County's long-range land use plan. Of the 1,100, almost 1,200 parcels of land within 1 mile of this proposed development, the average lot size is 2.38 acres. which is 10 times what the developer is proposing. This is according to the Union County GIS. If only subdivision lots within 1 mile of the proposed development are checked, the average lot size is 1.34 acres, 5 times what the developer is proposing. There are 0 10,000 square foot lots in the vicinity within 1 mile. The next concern we have, and is pretty big, is the stormwater runoff. And we've heard here tonight what's going to be done, and we've done some work of our own to come up with some figures that I think will interest you. And there's a safety issue with this land. There's no cross streets inside the development. It will make it very difficult for emergency vehicles, police, fire, and ambulance, and rescue to get in and out quickly in an emergency situation. Having only one access in and out of the development will create a huge increase in traffic volume on Antioch Church Road, which is already very congested and getting more so by the year. This will be a problem both during construction with the dump trucks, heavy equipment, and afterward with the creation of new school bus stops and many more vehicles from the development. And that's just a quick overview of what you're going to get in depth here with the next speaker, starting with the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Gobbin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. So I'm going to go ahead and cover a few things. First thing I'll be school impact analysis. So just a little background on myself. 20-year veteran. Every time I moved, my kids were always my #1 priority. I found the school that I wanted my kids to go to, and then we went and found a home within that area. Weddington, we're coming to Charlotte 2.5 years ago. That was no exception. So as we relocated, we found that Weddington had top-notch schools. I think they're like 9 or 10 great schools. They also have a project Lead the Way for the high school students. So a little bit more information. I have kids in elementary school currently. I've had them in the junior high, and I have 2 in the high school right now. So the information I'm presenting is well known, and it's kind of hits home with myself. So as we all know, last year in 2018, the school rezoning happened within Union County to help kind of redistribute kids amongst the school districts because there was overcrowding, overpopulation, and this would help reduce a little bit of the numbers. So as you can see from the data that's provided up there, which I pulled directly from Union County Public School System with the hyperlink provided for you, you can sit there and see that for the last 6 years, they've been over the school capacity. So the rezoning took us down from 121% down to 108%. There's no numbers out right now for this year because we haven't hit the 40-day average. We just hit the 20-day, and they won't publish anything until the 40-day. So I've done a little bit of research into that fact as well. A little background into myself as well as to the comment that was made earlier. We came from Beaufort, South Carolina 2.5 years ago. You may hear that 4 middle schools are great. The schools down in Beaufort, South Carolina are not so great when you compare them with great schools. So the charter schools are a big thing down there. Montessori schools, great. They're all a bunch of little startup companies, basically. And basically what we saw from that was parents are trying to look for that great new solution to help solve their kids' educational concerns. They just bounce from charter school to charter school. It didn't solve it. We tried it out once from Montessori school the year before we came here. In our first year that we were in the Weddington public school systems, our kids struggled emotionally, and they were also just struggling. Our junior high and our elementary school student just struggled because they were behind the other students. So the suggestion that I think kids would move and jump to charter schools I think is completely speculative and is unfounded in any way, shape, or form. People are not going to leave a school that has 9 or 10 is well-grounded in the curriculum to go to some startup, as I call it. Of note, pulled off some additional data from Weddington's site to show that there's already about 70 homes that are already in the progress that could be added to this overcrowding at Weddington Elementary. So the other 47 schools or 47 homes they're plugging in could just drastically almost double that undue pressure on the schools. So I'm not asking you guys to vote completely against developing. I'm just asking you to vote for the future of our future leaders. So vote for our kids. Okay? And I think an R10 is a little bit excessive, and there's a better solution. And additional concerns that we have, or we talked about the safety concerns, so I'm big into data, love pulling out numbers. So I went to Data USA, they present a bunch of information on Weddington to talk from, great website, so if you want to check it out, click on it, you'll see all this great data that's out there in Union County and Weddington. What they talked about is that the average that you could pull from this data is that in Weddington, there's a study for the 3,422 households, that there's percentage of households that had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 cars. So 39%, the most had 2 cars, but over 50-some% had 3 or greater. So a lot of it ties to the economic wealth, like the size of the homes, like 430,000 plus homes as of 2016 was the average home value, and the median income was 125,000. So I think based off of this, that data is aligned directly with what they're pricing their homes at. So I think the study comes out and shows you that 2.82 cars are per household. So if we put 47 homes that are priced, as you said, 600,000, I think it's a very safe assumption to sit there and say that the 47 homes could bring exactly about 133 cars, give or take. Why is that important? Because as we talked about, or Jay talked about a minute ago, that there's only one entrance. So pulled off their site plans, they got 30-foot setback, two-car driveways, 4 facing garages. So those are considerations into this. So if 2.82 cars and they take up the driveway, that 0.82 car is going to have to go somewheres. If they're resourceful, they're using their garages. If they've got a lot of extra stuff, then maybe they're using their driveways. Some people may be going out into the roads. So other things I took into consideration looking at data was standard vehicle width is about 6 feet. Compact car, if you're driving a little Spark, maybe it's 5.8. SUV, a little over 6 feet. The standard vehicle for fire and ambulance are 9 to 9.9, maybe about 10 feet. All that data is also provided via hyperlink. So why is that also important? As we talked about, there's one entrance, one exit. Okay? For a 20-foot road with 1-foot curbs, 6 inches on the curb. So if they park their car exactly on the curb, then maybe there's enough room if there's cars parked almost side by side, across from each other, if you guys understand what I'm trying to say, that the fire truck could maybe wiggle its way through there if they were parked exactly on the curb. However, that may not be the exact case. So what I'm proposing here is that the big safety concern comes out is if the houses presented shaded in yellow are, high propensity to have the 2.82 cars, and high propensity maybe to have their cars parked on the street. So all I'm asking is to take this into consideration, so we don't have to look back at this later on when, say, someone on lot number 34 is in some dire critical emergency, whether it's a heart attack victim or maybe some child drowning, that we have to look back and say, man, maybe we should have considered, other considerations with the R10 zoning. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you.
And I guess lastly, I missed one thing. So as you talked about, we did have our petition signatures, and most of it was from either in town of Weddington or Matthews or local surrounding communities such as Waxhaw that are also very concerned about the R10 like rezoning, because they also love the charm and the appeal of their neighborhoods, not wanting their schools to get overcrowded, because they're also from great schools such as Marvin, Cuthbertson, as well as Weddington. So,
Mr. Godwin.
Quick,
Mr. Godwin.
yes, sir.
quick question, and more for Mr. Godwin, is for, I think Kathy Heintal's here, or some of the school board members. That 701 number that he had on Weddington Elementary School, I've never seen that number before. I've always seen 750, I've seen 650, I've seen 1,000. What makes that 701 number? What constitutes that 701 capacity?
I can tell you just because I've done the research and I made the phone calls and talked to the school.
Right,
So
and I'm sure that your research showed it, but I'm asking.
Capacity is based upon full implementation of House Bill 13, which is phased in over the next 3 years.
Okay, so that's the legislative capacity. Just to give you an example, back in 2003, the capacity of that school went to 650. So that's why I'm asking where the 701 number is from.
And it's as you talk to anybody in the Weddington Elementary School, 701 is their student capacity. It's also one thing on that website. You got to do a little digging, but they will say it hasn't changed.
Okay. So that one's smaller than Rayview and Kensington and Marvin? Okay, because those schools have been as high as 1,000 capacity.
And just for anybody who's not familiar with Weddington, the junior high and the elementary sit side by side. They're mirror images of one another. It's not like you can take over the junior high and make Weddington Elementary much bigger. The junior high is no place for it to go, and it's also, junior high is also a feeder for people come from Antioch as well as Weddington. And I think the high school is somewhere around 90% currently, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd Wilson.
Go Pack.
I want to touch quickly again on the Union County Land Use Plan. We as a community support expected change, and we see change in some of our properties currently being developed. But we as a community know that this proposed conditional R10 zoning is 4 times denser than what is currently on Union County Land Use Plan for this area, as we've discussed. A little more on the detail from Mr. Horner's data. Of the surrounding subdivisions, 674 of the 793 lots surrounding the subdivision are over 40,000 square feet. The remaining lots, like here, that are being developed, that are pointed out in Bonterra developments, both in the south and the north, have a average lot size that are greater than 20,000 square feet, both of which are twice the density of the existing land use plan. The proposed rezoning will allow the developer to squeeze 47 lots into 25.5 acres. That is 3 more lots than the development in the south from Bonterra. That is on 42 acres of land. In other words, that is more houses on half the amount of usable land. Remember that the comparison between the proposal and the southern lot is already at twice the density of the existing land use plan. Stormwater impact. I'm going to touch on 2 areas of concern. It's the southwest edge of the property, and also, of course, 12 Mile Creek, which we've discussed. If we go back up to one of Nick's slides here, I'll kind of describe the existing runoff from this property today. On the east side of the property, most of the grade actually supports the water from draining off the property into 12 Mile Creek, which is great news for the surrounding area, except for the folks downstream from this property. The west side of the property drains mostly from the northwest to the southeast. There's a small little high area that goes in front of this row of houses here, this row of 10 houses here. And that will cause the water to flow down towards the southwest edge of the property. So these 10 houses will create essentially 10 acres, or no, sorry, 1 acre of impervious surface. And that equates to 27,000 gallons of rain per inch of rain that will be going down this property line here between the Antioch Church Plantation and the proposed area. The other area of concern, of course, is 12 Mile Creek, which we've touched on before. 12 Mile Creek has been flooding for years. This is a picture back from 2003, March 20th of 2003. The USGS weather station reported that was a result of 2.2 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. Now keep in mind that is way before any of the additional higher density properties that have been developed in this area. One additional safety concern with that in mind, if we go back to that larger slide, is that, well, I know that the developer will do a great job at engineering this bridge across the creek. There is just one way in and one way out. and that will leave 24 houses on the east side of the creek. We believe that will propose a safety concern for future events where those 24 houses could be stranded. Again, 2.2 inches in 24 hours caused, back in 2003, a 12-mile creek to overflow into Antioch Church. Let's see, we'd be stuck. Sorry. It does not want to go past that slide.
Escape.
I did.
Sorry for that. If he does, I would just click on that one slide.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So the next slide was going to show essentially 4 years of, there it is right there, 4 years of, yeah, exactly. So it's 4 years worth of data that shows that at least once a year we have a rain event that exceeds 2.2 inches of rain a year. Again, the retention ponds will definitely help, but they do not eliminate the additional rain or runoff that would be due to the impervious surfaces. The goal is to really just to slow the rate, as you know, into that as a release from the development. Again, with that in mind, I would like to leave these two questions for the council is what will be the long-term effect for as we double the land use plan like we are in Bonterra? And the second is what will be the effect if we triple or quadruple the density like we're planning on this R10 proposal? Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Griffin?
Hello, Commissioner, Chairman, Manager. My name is Wayne Griffin. I live, Todd, I want a little bit of, Nick, I want a little bit of help, please. Sure. I'm not against development. I'm a builder and I do small developments, so without developments, we don't get anywhere. I can't make a living. I just want to see things developed in the right way. I don't feel like this piece of property, the creek cannot take what's going to be put on it. Kevin just said that retention ponds, correct me if I'm wrong, are not required in cluster.
No, I didn't say
I thought you said that.
no,
Okay.
So they're required.
Okay. With what little bit I know, I've done a development around the corner, used an engineering firm that's well respected. They gave us a lot of this information. Can we get back to this high meadow, Nick? That's my property. Let's leave this last storm out of the equation because we've never experienced that ever before. We want to go to no, the next one, the 2003.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this one right there. That was many years ago before any other development took place around. And look at the flood we had right there. My wife and myself experienced that, and the other neighbors around here. Maybe once a year, but we've kind of gotten used to it. If we go and try to put more water into the creek, who's going to protect us? I'm downstream. I'm about as far downstream as you can get. As I said, the storm that came through on 2 Sundays ago, we can't even use that for criteria for what this development could do, because this development would not impact that. I was making a few notes. I was asked to speak at the last minute on this, so y'all bear with me. I have complained to the DOT numerous times. I've had them come out and clean the road up when I couldn't keep it clean. The Plan B, that's a little disturbing to me. It's kind of like somebody's wanting to wrestle with us. I mean, I just, Kevin, I don't quite understand that. I mean, I know that, but I'm just, and I know that, and I appreciate that. But if it's Plan B, how y'all gonna get over there to it?
We're not going over the creek on that.
Yeah, let's keep your comments to the
Okay, yeah,
board,
okay.
please.
All right, so
Sorry.
then, I'm just curious how they get over there. So somebody's got to put a bridge if they want to do their Plan B. You know, wildlife, to put this development in, there's a lot of wildlife there. I don't think it's really going to hurt the wildlife that much. They're still going to have room to run, and, you know, because they run up and down our creek all the time. The retention ponds that a little bit I know of that's been shown on this one drawing, I've been told they're not sufficient to handle the water that this development's going to take. I'm not an engineer. I'm just telling you what another engineer has told me. So let's think about that before we make our minds up to do some type of a vote. And one other thing is, you know, I didn't get on them running neighbors down to sign petitions or whatever. I just want these people to know that. They came to my house. I didn't go out and try to solicit in any way. I don't think this is good for the neighborhoods, us people downstream. Mr. Osborne, excuse me, he needs to sell his property, I understand that. But my wife and myself now have about 10 acres, and if y'all allow for this to come further downstream, who's going to help me with my property? I mean, we get busted every time. And I mean, I could go on with these little things, but I'm not going to. That's just my stance right there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
David Thompson.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's David Thompson. I live in Antioch Plantation, just around the corner from this development. I think my neighbors have done a great job of explaining some of the issues that are out there, so I'm not going to repeat them. I think they did a commendable job of trying to show you what my concerns are as well. I just have a couple others. First, you know, it was brought up earlier here that, you know, why didn't we complain before? You know, why now this property? It's because this property is different. It's not like the Bonterra properties. We looked at the Bonterra properties. We are a bit alarmed that we're adding more people here, but when you look at this new development they're talking about compared to Bonterra, it's completely different. It looks different. It's not because one or two neighbors got excited. It's because we all recognize that this is different. And I think they're trying to stretch it. They talk about it as being a regular plot. Well, they're trying to put too much into an irregular plot. And I think the density of homes there is just way out of bounds for the normal Union County, our neighborhood. I also didn't like Plan B, the comment about Plan B. I feel a little bit like you're holding a gun to my head, that if I don't accept your proposal, you're going to trash our property values. That's what I took from that, and I don't appreciate that. But I also have concern. The situation on the roads is already brought up too, having a left-hand turn lane. But I think it's more than that. Getting out on Weddington Road off of Antioch Church is a nightmare sometimes. It gets stacked up there. I go to work, I go out Beulah Church over to Providence, and some mornings that road is backed up a mile already. And the 5 new developments in that area haven't even been completed yet. So you add another, 47 homes here, another 44 over there. It's getting crowded, and we need to think about planning for the future, and I know you do that every day. So I'd just like you to take into consideration on this case, don't put this one through. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we're about half through our speakers, so we're going to take a recess until about 25 till. Lynn picked a good night to break Misty in.
Do what?
Just thinking about what you got to do tomorrow. Okay, we'll call our meeting back to order, and our next speaker is Charles Osborne.
I don't have on a red shirt. My name's Charles Osborne. Commissioners, staff, and neighbors, I bring you greetings from the Osborne family. I represent 44 of the direct relatives of Frank Osborne, and I'm here to support the rezoning of their land in question. I have 3 points. I'm going to drop most of the second one because of the tax thing, and I didn't do all this PowerPoint for the taxes. Number one, my father and mother bought this farm back in the early 40s. Before he died, he divided it up between the 5 of us kids. My land, along with my sister's land, borders more of this land than any other of the homeowners. Number 2 was taxes. And I was going to talk a little bit about the taxes, but I'm going to just sum this up. All of his figures on the taxes don't match mine, but my taxes were lowered 5% this year. You folks are doing something right. Thank you very much. And y'all are going to miss Penny Henson at the tax office, I'm sure, after 28 years. The thing I did about the taxes was figure what the taxes would be on 47 $600,000 houses compared to 25 $600 houses, which $600,000 houses, which probably the 25 houses would be less than $600,000 houses. And if you look at it sensibly, it would be about half the money. Now, the way he looks at it and the way it's going to cost, that blew my mind, so I'm not going to tell you what the figures are here. The county has gone to the expense of the infrastructure and put in water and sewer. Well, my brother and I have just sold the land or give the right of way for the sewer to come through our land already. So it's coming. So it makes sense for the county to use the resources. Okay, and the last point I want to make is, and I signed my brother up to speak, but he is not going to speak, so you don't have to call his name next. Thank you. He's going to sell this land. He's going to sell it, and in the near future, there's going to be houses on it. It's going to be developed. It is for sale. Water, flood, or whatever, he's going to sell it. I'd much rather see this development with nice paved streets, sidewalks, nice landscape homes, nice development, nice homes, than to see a developer come in and build second-rate houses that turn into rental property in 3 or 5 years. We know how that works around the county. We've seen that happen. When these houses are put up, people go in for one-time houses and they buy them and then they move somewhere else. It's a rental house, and we know what the rental property turns into. Just ask the sheriff's department back here where they get their most calls. We know all about what happens to that. Thank you very much. I'd like for you to consider his proposal. I think this is going to be a good thing for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Horvath.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Brad Horvath, Mayor of Wesley Chapel, and I'd like to really just point out a couple of things. My concern is not development per se. Development's going to happen. We understand that. It occurs all over. Is it in concert with the area which is around it? That's in all of our ordinances, but how often do we pay attention to it? For me, being on the opposite side, is the issue of Wesley Chapel children perhaps going through another yo-yo with schools because we put all this additional density in between us and Weddington High Schools. You know, a few years ago we were redistricted, now we've been redistricted back, and it may happen again in the future. I understand that, but why set a precedence by allowing this additional development? Obviously, the traffic on the roads that are not built for it. Other thing I wanted to mention was the safety issue, but from a different perspective. Now, I know the ordinances allow 10-foot setbacks, et cetera, but those of us that, I've only been around 14 years, not anywhere near as long as these fine folks. But I do remember the fire in St. John's Forest. One house burnt, second house started, and the one on the other side started to melt. I'll put it that way. We've got to be careful. We're putting additional pressures on our services, and you're putting people's lives potentially in danger. The other thing that I wanted to mention that was in the write-up was something about alleviating density pressures. This is not going to alleviate any density pressures because you allow density. It's going to do the opposite. It's going to mean every other property owner will want the same thing. Now, we have a development that's going in on the north side of Potter, opposite my subdivision, Candela. It's facing the same type of an issue. It has a wetlands running through it. They're lucky. They've got road frontages on both sides of their property, so they can have an entrance and an exit. So I get that. They can have an entrance on either side, I should say. One off of Potter and then one on the back road, which I can't remember the name of right now. So there's always solutions. I think we need to be smarter about it. I need to not set precedents going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian O'Connell.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Manager, board members, fellow citizens, I'd like to add my voice to the opposition for the conditional rezoning proposal. I'm not here to argue against an individual citizen's rights and the landowner, Mr. Osborne, and the family for selling their property. Fully within your rights and fully it's something that obviously you want to maximize. Completely appreciate that. However, I do have some serious concerns in regards to public safety and the public safety factors associated with putting an additional 133 cars on Antioch Church Road. The traffic congestion is already, I think, at an impasse. I believe that we are between 3 and 5 years away from having a railroad extension that would take some of that congestion off of Weddington Road and Route 84 between Monroe and Weddington Central. That being said, this is going to impact not just Antioch Church Road and putting a turn lane on Antioch Church Road. This is going to impact the north intersection of Beulah Church and Antioch Church, as well as the already busy intersection of Antioch Church and Highway 84. Today, I have not seen in the public record any calls for a traffic study that goes beyond just putting a turn lane in on Antioch Church Road. And I think that should be something that should be the first thing from a public safety perspective that the board considers in looking at this development. In addition, I do believe that in addition to the public impact on the traffic, I would like to second the thoughts. I had a few thoughts that I was going to put together, but my fellow citizens have obviously covered them. I will not waste everybody's time, but I will second the thoughts in regards to the water runoff and the downstream impact. Taking for the exception of this past event with Hurricane Florence, we've been in the community for 14 years. We live right around the street on Highview Road, and it is once or twice a year that road floods over, and we are blacked off on that road. I think you know that, being residents of the area. So I'd like to see something done in regards to the water runoff and a serious study done in regards to how that's going to impact the residents downstream, as well as the traffic in the area. The second thing I would second is the land use consistency. Land use consistency is not in line with what we've seen, including the developments to the south and to the north. And that is also something, I think, the reason why you have concerned citizens today is because the land use is not consistent with what we've seen in the past. The third area as well, infrastructure development requirements outside of roads, sewers and runoff, electricity, and the like. I have not seen any detailed plans in regards to water and public sewers. So I know you're talking with the Corps of Engineers, I know you're talking with the county. However, I haven't seen that. I can't make a decision without seeing all the facts in regards to development. And then on the fourth item, this is something that I don't have to deal with today because I got rid of my last kid to college this past year, but school enrollment. And I know that's going to be a huge issue when it comes to, as you said earlier, the back and forth yo-yo between Wesley Chapel and Weddington, and what a lot of concerned citizens with younger children have. So I thank you for your service, first of all, and for your consideration on the thoughts and concerns of your fellow citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Claudia?
In the interest of time, I'd like to pass. Everything's been said, and I'll just say ditto.
Okay, thank you so much. Roy Averbach?
I'm going to say the same thing. I think everyone has said things eloquently better than I could have said. It's all been covered.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that concludes those wishing to speak. So at this time, we will close the public hearing.
Brian, do you have any closing comments at this point in time? No?
Okay, thank you for your time. Takes us to item 9, UDO Transportation Text Amendments.
Yes, Bjorn, are you presenting this item?
Thank y'all for what you do.
You know how to clear a room.
Should have told me they were going.
Tell Bjorn he's got 3 minutes, right?
I'll just say, Commissioners don't care. I walk into headquarters, they say, look, I'm like, no. Now I'll get cool.
The doors are closing. Bjorn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Ms. Cotto. This agenda item is something that we identified as a need to update within the UDO for the county in 2017 on the heels of the Comprehensive Transportation Plan adoption process for the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization. Our ordinance language referenced the thoroughfare plan, and which was an older name for these types of plans that we now call comprehensive transportation plans, as well as to reference some case law that had been occurring in the state of North Carolina regarding better protection of property rights as it relates to corridor preservation for new transportation corridors. Our current language in the UDO, which has been in place for several years, stipulates that when development occurs, that the right-of-way is reserved for future widenings or for new alignments. And so we had a development in the Waxhaw area that was significantly impacted by this, and they said that they were not willing to dedicate this land, and in consultation with legal staff came to the conclusion that it wasn't a defensible ordinance provision that we had, and so we recommended taking that out of our UDO, as well as aligning our ordinance language with the Comprehensive Transportation Plan process that is in use through the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, as well as the Rocky River Rural Planning Organization for the rural portions of the county. And this went through the planning board in the fall of 2017. We were going to bundle it with other UDO amendments, but things didn't really progress as quickly as we wanted. You adopted multiple other UDO changes in the summer, but I was away with military obligations, and we decided to delay this until I came back, and it was going to be reviewed 2 weeks ago, but then we had the hurricane, so here we are on October 1st, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, but the changes to the UDO are found throughout the document. There are implications on sign locations, as well as references to the comprehensive transportation plan, dedication of land, new definitions for what a comprehensive transportation plan is, as well as widths of previous roads that we would have required the dedication of that we've taken out. And so if there's a public hearing, I'm happy to answer any questions that may come out of that. Otherwise, if it's
Questions for Bjorn?
otherwise, if we're in a good
So
position to ask for
I'll open the
adoption.
public hearing. We have no one signed up to speak, so I'll close the public hearing. Takes us to item 10, public hearings for renaming portions of Troll Henson Road and Garden Bridge Lane.
Bjorn, is this yours as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In case we had technical issues, wanted to have my slide. This is an item that is a cleanup of the massive road renaming process and naming process that we undertook last fall with the multiple municipalities that were affected by the Monroe Expressway construction. This section of the expressway is solely within Union County, unincorporated Union County. And this road, which was Old Williams Road and was bisected by the Monroe Expressway, the northern part was renamed Garden Bridge Lane at the request of residents in this area. But oddly enough, Old Williams Road actually turns to the left, to the west, and is a gravel road. It's very strange. And there's no one living on this. So Old Williams Road, which is now Garden Bridge Lane, is a gravel road. Then you have to stop and then turn to stay on Garden Bridge Lane. They're getting, the residents are having issues with confusion by postal deliveries, as well as some trash issues in this area. They would like for clarity's sake, to have the entire section of paved road to be renamed Garden Bridge Lane, and have this section over here of the existing Garden Bridge Lane to be renamed Santana Road. We have cleared these with emergency management, with the NCDOT addressing. There's no implications on readdressing, because both of these sections of road are unoccupied by homes, and it's a pretty straightforward request, and we're happy to accommodate the residents of that area.
Questions? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. We have no one to speak, and so I'll close the public hearing. Bjorn, where'd you come up with that Santana?
I came from the property owners. The Garden Bridge Lane.
Got out my old Woodstock video.
The Garden Bridge Lane is actually really cool. The property, their front yard actually has a creek going through it, and they have a bridge on their front yard, and we actually came up with the name sitting there drinking tea, and it worked out well.
Good deal. Thank you. That takes us to our informal comments. We have,
Excuse me, Chairman. Brian, did we have a clarification?
Yes.
Oh,
I
I'm
know
sorry.
you haven't gotten to your agenda, but we would request if the board would consider both the text amendment and the Garden Bridge Lane, adding that as an action item if possible.
sure. We only had one person signed up to speak, Representative Brody. Unfortunately, he had another commitment, so he didn't realize the meeting was going to go as long. We appreciate him making an effort to be with us, and apologize he had to leave. So other than that, we had no informal comments. So that will take us to the additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda.
Chairman,
Yes?
I would like to add, talking about a luncheon, a celebratory luncheon for everyone that worked during the hurricane.
Okay. Make that 38A. And anybody else?
Can I ask Brian, the other item he wanted us to take action on, the UDO?
Sure. Ask him.
Brian, the UDO, you were talking about adding
The UDO text amendments and the.
part of consent agenda, right?
The ones with the hearing we just had, the hearing on the UDO text amendment, an
Uh-huh.
action item, whether it's.
Just that? Okay. Because the reason I ask is because when I was reading over that, I understand the road situation, but there was other actions as well as part of that UDO, and I didn't know if we were going to talk about it. You know, it talked about setbacks. That's what piqued my interest, to be honest.
Okay. It's really more specific to the actual road and not changing setbacks of lots. So I didn't know if there was confusion on that, but we can certainly wait if the board has other questions.
Okay, we'll make those 38B and 38C.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
The motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is our consent agenda. Motion to approve consent, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, nay on consent, okay, sorry, Lynn. All right, that takes us to 37, update on the progress of Monroe Middle School.
Yes, and I believe Ms. Heintel with the Board of Education is here to provide us, and I think they have preloaded the
We have.
PowerPoint for you.
Let's see if I can figure it out.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks for having us.
And we did have a clarification on this item that Ms. Heintel brought to our attention is in the agenda abstract that staff put together. It's listed as a bond project, and this is not one of the bond projects.
Uh-oh.
It's had a workout tonight.
Well, the best laid plans. There you go. Okay. It's one at full screen, right? There we go. Okay. Thank you for having me. I wanted to come before you to talk about the Monroe Middle School renovations that we just got done doing this summer, and to thank you for the $3.4 million out of capital funds to do the renovations. So I just want to, Mark Strickland is here from UCPS as well. So $3.4 million for renovations to Monroe Middle School, all from CIP funding. How'd you do that? Okay. The renovation included new walls, new flooring, new ceilings, new ductwork, classroom furniture, new classroom doors, new intercom system, new fire alarm system, additional parking for staff, and we painted it with red accents for the Monroe Red Hawks, and asbestos abatement. You're going to see in the slides that come up with the pictures, they had temporary walls in the classrooms that were, I always say they're like my garage door. They're so thin you could probably poke a hole through them. And they didn't go all the way to the ceiling. They didn't meet in the corners. They didn't go all the way to the floor. And you could stand in a classroom at Monroe Middle and hear the teachers talk on each side of you. So it was very not conducive to learning because you could hear so many things going on at the same time. New floors, new ceilings. We put in new ductwork because the old stuff was fiberboard. We did flex seating in the classrooms. The intercom system and the fire alarm system are both safety enhancements. We didn't have an intercom system at Monroe Middle that would reach all of the classrooms. This is during construction. As you can see, we took everything down to the studs everywhere. And this project started in June, and we had it done for the August opening of school. There it goes. Okay, that's the main hallway. That's the after of the main hallway. Okay, where are you? Takes a minute. This is before and after of a classroom hallway. You can see how cleaned up the hallway is, all new tile floors. This is on the before. You can see the walls in the classroom and how they were temporary walls that were put up. And then that's the new classroom on the right with the flexible seating. Again, another showing that the walls don't meet and they don't meet all the way to the ceiling. That's another picture of the new classroom with the new flexible seating. That's an old classroom door, and you can see the principal standing by the new classroom doors, and that's more of the flexible seating in the classrooms. Kids are loving it. There's instructional benefits, acoustics, as I talked about, safety enhancement. And when we were meeting with the principal at the school, he was talking to us about the feeling of pride at Monroe Middle and how excited the kids were to see new classrooms and new furniture and stuff that they hadn't had in a really long time because the school was built in early 70s. So we just wanted to give you an update on the project and where we came in, and we appreciate the funding. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I just wanted to say, 2 years ago, I was invited to Monroe to participate in Career Day. And I have to tell you, I walked in and I was depressed. And I was there for half a day and I was depressed because I thought this is what these students are dealing with. So I'm very happy that this has happened.
They're so excited. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kathy, may I also say, after your renovations, and you could tell it going in, I agree, because I'd been there to your health sciences, but yet you made it available for our disaster recovery location with your new, and you should be commended for that. And I appreciate, again, Mr. Odell that came over and made sure that everyone had what they needed. So
Appreciate that.
thank
We
you.
want to come back to you once in a while with big projects that we've done just to show you what we're doing in the schools with some of the money we have. And the bond projects are coming up too, so we'll be able to show you some of the improvements we've done with the bond.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
That takes us now to a new business, item 38, CPO number 215, consolidation of Porter Ridge High and Middle.
Yes, this was a request we received from the Board of Education as it related to them needing sufficient funds for one of the bond projects. The original request was to transfer money between projects, and what staff came up with it is that if we combine the two projects at Porter Ridge, that they should have sufficient enough funding, so this addresses their needs to be able to meet the construction bid, I think, that you received.
Right, we bid Porter Ridge Middle and Porter Ridge High as one bid project. So it's just taking and using the whole budget between the two schools for the two schools to get done.
So it gives them that flexibility so they can get the renovation complete.
Right. And it's within the budget for the two schools, but if you split it out, it is not.
Question, yes, Commissioner Rushing.
Motion to approve the CPO number 215 to consolidate the Porter Ridge High and Middle School bond projects.
Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Takes us to 38A. Ms. Harrison.
Yes, I would like to suggest that we do a luncheon for all the people that work during Florence. That as appreciation for all they do, and these may be people that this is what they're paid to do, but seriously, while the winds are going and the rain is happening, they're not at home, helping at home. And so I would like to work with staff to see that happens.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes, I concur. I think I spent some time over at the shelter, and I talked to some people earlier, and they said, yeah, we're third shift. Well, they were still there in first shift. These people stayed. I talked with one of Dennis's reports that, you know, their parents lived down east and they were fighting the flood down that way, but yet they were here taking care of our citizens. And I mentioned Mr. Odell a couple of times, these people. But I agree that it might be, I think it's appropriate to recognize these individuals and thank them in person and show them that we really appreciate what they did during this, because a lot of people stepped up big time. And Dennis, it was good to see you over there at the school.
Commissioner Rushing.
Do we have a health fair coming up soon?
We had the Employee Expo on Friday.
Oh, it's already been.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Any further, I take that as a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Takes us to 38B, which is item 9, UDO Transportation Text Amendments. Brian?
I just want to clarify Commissioner Helm's
Sure.
question. Specifically, his issue was a question about setbacks, and the text change has to do with the measurement of setbacks from the right-of-way, not a change in setbacks as far as the lot goes. Currently, the ordinance measures the front setback from the planned right-of-way. As Bjorn mentioned, based on sort of court case and what we've got from legal advice, we really can't hold people to that planned right-of-way. So we need to change the ordinance to reflect that the setback would be measured from the existing right-of-way. And that's where setback came from.
And I didn't realize that. I appreciate that update, and maybe I need to talk to you about another amendment to the UDO to address what is appropriate setbacks in the county, because we've got some setbacks that I think the mayor of Wesley Chapel mentioned multiple houses burning, and I think we can do a better service to our citizens to not force them so close. Thank you, sir.
Brian. Motion to approve the UDO Transportation Text Amendments. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Consistency statement, accompanying consistency statement. Sorry. And item 38C is the changes to the road names.
The renaming portions of Troll, Henson Road, and Garden Bridge Lane.
Motion to approve the renaming.
We have a motion, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. I believe that takes us to the county manager's comments.
And I have no comments this evening, other than thank you very much for the birthday wishes. It was much appreciated.
Commissioner Helms.
No comments except to wish the manager a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mr. Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to clarify why I voted against the consent agenda tonight. It wasn't that I had any real disagreements with anything on it, but it was to make a point and to ask for an action for our next meeting. we had a lot of folks speak to us here tonight that didn't seem to understand how Union County has planned for the last 20 years. And we've had people from all, from a lot of the municipalities that have served as county commissioners. Mr. Presley was a county commissioner. We've had Weddington citizens and Weddington, former elected officials from Weddington that served on the county commission. And over those years, we've set in place plans to do things such as the sewer plant, such as water, all those issues, and those things have to be paid for. And sewer can't be paid for with 1 acre lots. And I think that that's a misunderstanding of what's going to eventually happen in that area when we run a sewer line through that area. Tonight on the consent agenda, and the reason I voted against it was just to bring up the point. I mean, we have we're expanding, we're developing, we're improving the water treatment plant to Catawba River, and that's we're looking at $16 million on one of those projects that we're planning to do. And I don't know that our citizens understand quite what those plans are for that area. And if we could, at the next meeting prior to a vote and prior to discussion again on any of this that went on tonight, have a maps available of current water and sewer lines, and then also projected that they can see what's coming. We had the same problem back in the spring when we had folks that were concerned about the sewer line coming down that had been planned for many years and supported over many years by many boards. And you can't, there's some trains that can't be stopped. And if we're going to do these plans and have these projects, I think our citizens would benefit from a presentation showing them exactly what's going to happen. And I also plan, I appreciate the Horners. I got to go meet with them. They graciously invited me into their home, and I met with them. I met with Mr. Estep. I met with Commissioner Presley, and I've talked to them. And I would encourage them to work together. Those $600,000, $500,000, whatever, $100,000 homes are going to either be built, or there could be townhomes built up or down that line or somewhere else. If we're going to utilize our sewer and water utilities on those projects, I would like to see them be on nice homes and things that are going to contribute to the tax base. So I think I plan to meet with both those folks again, and would encourage them to meet together to actually talk about the reality of what's going on here. And that and the folks along that line, if that line's been planned, that line's been discussed for many, many years. And I was here to discuss them the first time, and we're here to discuss them still. So I would encourage folks to educate themselves on what's happening with our utilities, and maybe by that we can help that process before that discussion on the next meeting.
May I seek a clarification just to make sure? So when Brian does an overview of the rezoning, are you requesting that as part of that, if we have
it'll be
part of our master plan, that a section of our master plan that maybe relates specifically to that particular area, that we include that as part of the presentation?
Or prior to, either maybe as a separate agenda item, maybe as an agenda item request, that I think that would benefit everybody to see it before we had the discussion on that item, to see what's planned for that area and what's coming through.
All right.
The potential, the future sewer lines, the planned sewer lines, what we have planned and has been voted on in the past that's coming through that area.
All right.
Commissioner Harris.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody that came out and spoke to us. This is the first time I had a public hearing where people were cursing at us, so I kind of appreciated that. So I wanted to thank everybody for that, and once again, I want to thank all of our employees that worked through the hurricane Florence.
Commissioner Akmus.
Yep, I just want to take a moment and recognize the Monroe Union County Economic Development Organization. I had the privilege last week of attending the Charlotte Business Journal Awards Dinner, where our own economic development team was recognized and received the Economic Development Organization of the Year Award. I think that's something that we can be very proud of. I think we see their work day in and day out as we move around this county, and certainly want to thank them and congratulate them for all that they do. And with that, happy birthday to the manager, and I wish everyone a good evening.
I would just say, thank you very much for the video and the work that went into that. We all have a tendency, as individuals, when we see a storm, impending storm or something like that, to turn inward. I never wanted to be a volunteer fireman. I'm just not made out to be that. Or someone who works with public works, with sewer and water, emergency services, the ambulance crew, all those folks. Law enforcement, they put on a badge and a uniform every day. And thank God that middle of the night, whatever the crisis, they're there. And to quote the sheriff, we're ready. Union County was ready. It was unreal, this storm and the water we saw and the road closures. And we had some challenges, but for the most part, Union County was ready. And that says a lot about the people that serve here in Union County. And I would ditto what Ms. Harrison said. I realize it's a little later than we normally stay, but it was an important issue. It was an important issue to a lot of those people, and they pay their taxes and have a right, when it's an issue impacting their lives, to have time to speak their piece. So thanks to them for coming. With that, I'll offer a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a good evening.